Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. So if Hoboken's on your radar right now, there are a few things you need to understand before you decide to make a move. So when you look online, it's not necessarily reality, it's a highlight reel. You got the skyline shots, the brownstones, the most walkable city headlines, happy people, parking aplenty, and those things can be true. It depends on many things, your price point, location, your must-haves, and the list goes on. But none of those things educate you on how people actually buy here, on how to compete, or how not to end up in the wrong spot paying too much money. And that's where buyers get tripped up. They come in thinking this is going to be simple, easy peasy. And then they very quickly realize it's not hard, but it is hyper specific. I'm Jill Biggs with the Jill Biggs Group. Today, I'm going to walk you through what actually matters if you're planning a move to Hoboken. The real logistics, the real strategy, the stuff nobody explains until you're in the middle of it. Let's start with the market. This is where people are overly confident or completely overly overwhelmed, and both can hurt. Oftentimes, it's the product of reading the headlines instead of dealing in reality. So depending on your go-to, you're going to hear the market's crazy, there's bidding wars everywhere, inventory is low. Or things are slowing down, and the inventory is stacking, you have more time, you can negotiate. The reality is that Hoboken's market is stable. Prices are holding, they're not dropping dramatically, they're not spiking overnight, right? It's a strong environment. This market is always a strong market. It's just price point dependent. And it's property specific, right? We have more one bedrooms than we've ever had, right? That's a function of people are working from home, right, more often, and they needed an extra space. So the one bedroom started to stack up. However, one bedrooms in this market can range from $350,000 to $1 million, depending, right? The median price might be $700K, but what does that really say? It depends on what is important to you. For some people, they don't need a full service luxury building, right? If parking is not important, if you're willing to walk upstairs, if it doesn't need to be within a certain radius of the ferry or the path, right? All those things factor into ultimately what you're going to expect to pay and what the competition is. Let's talk a little bit about competition. For new property, right? Typically they're coming on the market on a Thursday, right? Everybody is waiting for new listings to hit. Then they have open houses on Saturday and Sunday. There's a ton of traffic through. And used to be that happened, you had an offer on Monday, right? And then perhaps there were multiple offers and you had a bidding war and it was over by Wednesday. Now, depending, right, on what part of the market you're in, depends on how quickly that bidding war happens. There are absolutely things, right, that come on the market that list on a Thursday, have bidding wars, and the people decide they're going to think a little bit because buyers, right, are in an interesting position where they think they have a little bit more time. And if they were in a place where they were actually ready to make an offer and they saw the property, they called, they made the offer, they might have made it out of attorney review before the second week. Second week for sure. Other people have been thinking about it. They've been taking a little bit longer. Maybe they had to go back and look at it a second time. And then they jumped in. And that is how you have your bidding war, right? So just to be clear, right? If you're going to buy in Hoboken and you want to actually end up and you're not just starting your search, right? The idea is to be comfortable when you see the property that you like, move quickly. And FYI, if somebody lists a property on Thursday and you go and you look at it and you love the property, right? And you offer them, not their asking price. Now, I didn't price it. Maybe it's not worth their asking price. And if you're sitting there and you're 2.5 weeks into it, you can negotiate. That's great. And we're always happy to help you negotiate. But If you are seeing a brand new property that just hit the market and you're going to come in and you're going to try to negotiate, the seller is not prepared at that point to negotiate because in their head, they just listed their home, it just hit the market, and they're expecting their bidding war. So you have to kind of, when you're ready, be ready to win and put your best foot forward. And otherwise, you go out and you look so you get enough of a sense, right, of what the market is doing. But when you do want the property, move quickly. Let's talk about location, right? And I think it's a super funny thing. My entire career, when somebody tells me that they're moving to Hoboken, the first thing that they say is, "I want to be within 6 blocks of the path." And I say, "Great." And then you show them 6 blocks of the PATH train, and then they say, "Well, how about we go a little bit further, maybe 8 blocks?" And then you look at 8 blocks. And the next thing you know, they're in the northwest corner at the top of town because they've figured out that not only the PATH train gets you into the city, right? But you can also take the bus. You also have the ferry. So you can hop on the ferry from the top of town. You can hop on the ferry from the bottom of town. You can easily take the light rail, right? It just depends on where you're going. And Hoboken is only 1 square mile, but I gotta tell you, having lived all over town, it has different neighborhoods. Like, it depends what you're into, right? Each neighborhood has its own feeling. We all have bars, we all have restaurants, right? We all have families. Some people choose to live in the northeast corner of town because they want full service luxury doorman building with amenities. Now, that's great. And if that's your jam, you should get it. The town has something to offer for everyone. So depending on what you're looking for, don't rule out any area of town without giving it a try on. It's very different whether you're buying a house or you're buying a condo, right? You're moving to Jersey. Jersey is not known for its low taxes. However, I will say that as far as Hudson County is concerned, Hoboken has the lowest taxes of any of the municipalities currently. But most people that are buying, unless they're paying cash, they care about their monthly payment, right? They're trying not to overspend. They want to move to this fabulous, walkable, wonderful city with everything. But if they spend all their money on their house, they have no money left to go out and actually enjoy the town. So, monthly all-in costs, right? You have your HOA in a condo, which is your homeowner's dues, right? Your monthly. And you could have a building that perhaps doesn't have an elevator, right? Because when you have an elevator, it elevates your HOA. You could have a building that's not in a flood zone, right? Contrary to popular belief, everything in town is not in the flood zone. And if you happen to live in an area where they don't require flood insurance, right, your insurance is lower. And then you have last year, right, we had due by the end of 2025, our capital reserve study. So there are buildings that are 100% building up capital reserves to make fixes to their buildings. So age of building, depending on their current finances and how much that they have or whether they have any assessments up and coming, all factor into what is my monthly all-in costs, mortgage, right? HOA, insurance, homeowner's insurance that you're personally carrying for the interior, right? You're going to get a number, right? You're going to speak with your lender and you're going to get a comfort level on what works for you so that you are able to live in this wonderful house, be a homeowner, build equity, and still go out and enjoy it. And you need to have an understanding of that, I think, when you start. Everyone says 10 minutes. That's best case. Well, honestly, it's 11 minutes if you're taking the PATH train. I know this because I did used to commute via the PATH to Christopher. Now, it could take 7 minutes if you're hopping on the ferry. You have the light rail, which is super easy for Jersey City. It's very easy if you want to hop from the back of Hoboken to the PATH train. I recommend to everybody, you try every single commute to where you work and see which one works best. And sometimes we switch them around depending on what time of day, right? You have the buses, right? They run and stop every other block up Washington Street, and they run up Clinton, and they come home on Washington, and they come down Willow. Sometimes that's significantly easier than the path. Now, if the path is the easiest for you, obviously you're figuring out, how do I best get to the path? Now that Hoboken and Jersey City both share city bikes, I see people waving around me every morning when I'm driving here, taking their bike, right, so they can park it, the city bike, at the PATH train and hop on the PATH train. And that's a personal choice. My favorite really is the ferry, just because I think it's nice. I like to sit on the top when it's warm out. And if it's not warm, I sit inside. But they have buses from there that take you to multiple different areas of the city, and it's quick. However, it depends on what time of day, right? The bus stops running at a certain time of day, and then you're taking the path, and like, it depends where you're going to. So we have every option available to us with ease. And that's, I don't know, I think people tend to mix it up. Let's talk about lifestyle. When I first moved here, a period of maybe 10 years, and I had lived in the city for quite a while, nobody ever came and visited. That has changed, right? We are so close to New York that, to be honest with you, if you live uptown, it's quicker for me to get to the neighborhoods where I like to hang out, right, than it is for somebody who's living on the Upper East Side. So we have everything, right? Hoboken has 65,000 people, but a super small town feel. And if you live here and you make use, it's got real community. We have the parks, we have the waterfront. When it starts to get nice out, you have movies under the stars, you have Shakespeare in the Park, you have the band shell. Like, you can really get involved in this town. It's convenient. It's convenient to go into the city as frequently as you want, but it's convenient to hole up here and stay here and still feel like you have tons of food options and culture and things to do, places to go. And I don't know, to be honest with you, I've bopped around living in Hoboken, living in Jersey City, living in Union City. They all have their perks, and it really is the biggest small town that you could possibly choose to live in. Buying is not a passive sport. If you want to win and it's time for you to get the home, you need a plan. You got to have your list of must-haves, the things that you can live without and the things that you absolutely have to have. You got to be ready to move, right? If you need to sell your house to buy another house, you better have talked that through, because it's very hard for you to buy something with a home sale contingency, but not hard. People do it all the time, buy and sell simultaneously. They just are moving through those paces, satisfying their contingencies and putting them in a place where they actually are ready to buy. They have to know their timing, right? And I always like to do worst case scenario. So if you end up with an offer that you cannot refuse, that you have worked out, what happens? I want to take this offer. I don't want to be homeless. You have to understand that what you're seeing online is not necessarily everything, right? You need us to actively know all of this information, to be ready to understand the budget, right? You need to understand the process. And if there's more questions, we need to work through that so that you're ready when your house that you want to live in comes on the market and you're going to buy it. Like, we got to be ready to go. If you're serious, you got to start here. Get clear on what is non-negotiable. Is it parking, outdoor space, elevator? Decide that now. You're going to get aligned and have us introduce you, right, to the local lender. not optional. You don't want to use them, don't use them, right? But you want to get your deal accepted. You got to have a real strategy conversation. Hoboken moves fast, right? And if you understand that, you approach it the right way, it'll become one of the best places that you'll ever live. Hit subscribe, like the video. I'm Jill Biggs. I'll see you in the next one.